Now say this out loud as you're driving around in your car.
Join Sports Skillet.
Just what it feels like.
So how do you like it?
So what is it? I'm curious.
You like it like this?
My God, do we love football.
Or like this?
I love the sport of baseball.
And what about this?
You can have a sports show without all the vicious talk.
Simple human decency.
Whatever it is that you like.
Yeah, I like chaos.
We've got it covered.
Right?
It's sports the way you like it.
My friends, you may not know this. It's got everything you want.
Local and national sports talk that's fresh, in season, and FDA approved. If it's hot, you'll find it cooking with Jeff, Jay, and Kelly. They don't just stir the pot, they add more flavor than the other guys. Get ready to dig in and taste some Sports Skillet.
Tastes good.
Right now.
And welcome once again to the Sports Skillet live stream here on a Friday afternoon. Want to thank everybody for staying with us, hanging with us. We experienced some technical issues at the top of the show, so we've hopefully got them resolved, and we're doing some really cool things. Thanks, everyone. Want to give a shout out to John and Molly's. Won a cooler there. Picked it up last night, had a great dinner. So if you're in the area and you want to check out John and Molly's, go over there. Great food, tons of food, well-cooked stuff, great wait staff and everything, and lots of good things going on over at John and Molly's. So definitely go in and check them out whenever you get a chance. As I said, won a drawing for the cooler last night, so I'm a little stoked about that. Also want to let everybody know, feel free to go in and go over to sportsskilletradio.com, download our app. We have a great show every Sunday on Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey. So if you go in, download the app, you won't miss the show wherever you happen to be. And give us a like, follow, and share on our social media sites, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as subscribing right here to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our great content each and every week here on the live stream. So we're doing a little bit of an abbreviated show this week, so I want to bring in, as always, our good buddy, Ken Moskowitz. Ken, how are you doing today?
How we doing, Jay?
Oh, I'm doing a lot better now that we're live on YouTube, and now we got everything up and running. I appreciate you bearing with us.
No problem.
First, as we do every week, can you let everybody know how they can get in contact with you, how they can follow you, and everything like that?
100%, yes. Crossing guard Ken in parenthesis, Ken Moskowitz on Facebook, and Skywarn Spotter Ken on both Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to start out the show. We're talking about baseball at the top of the show. It seems as though the Phillies have zeroed in on 3 potential targets for their manager. What are your thoughts on the potential targets for the Phillies for their managerial vacancy? And do you think they should have broadened the search maybe just a little bit?
Well, with really no reason behind it. I've been, reading a lot about it. No reason behind it. I think they probably could have extended it. No harm, no foul in that. But, otherwise, I'll tell you, you got 3, you're down to 3 experience, the key word experience. That's where, that's what Middleton has been looking for. In Girardi, Buck, and Baker.
Yep.
Now, as of right now, let's see. Buck and Joe, I know, had interviewed this past Monday. Baker interviewed on Wednesday.
Yep.
And then he had another, if I am correct on it, a second interview yesterday, Dusty Baker, that is. Buck, as we speak, is probably there now, or he had it this morning. And then Joe Girardi with a second interview as well on Monday, and then from here on out, it looks like the target date, as far as getting everything finalized, and to the point where they introduce one of the three. It looks like the target date is an estimated time frame of the 24th. So that's if they don't broaden the search before then. So I mean, look, experienced. And from what I've been reading, at least I think it's at least two sources right now via Philadelphia media. It seems like Girardi is the highest odds-on favorite right now to landing the job. But again, let's see what transpires between now and and what may very well be the 24th.
Yeah, exactly. My list, the three guys in order that I would prefer them, Girardi would be number one. I guess Buck Showalter would be number two, and Baker would be number three. That would be my list. What would be yours?
Oh, I echo it. No two ways, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I echo it. That would be mine as well. No doubt.
Yeah, the reason I would want Girardi, if those are the only three guys, and it appears that is the case, because all three have interviewed, Baker and, as you said, Baker and Showalter have interviewed twice. Girardi is, I think, going to interview for the second time, I think, this coming May. And then maybe shortly after that, when the World Series has a break for travel, next week could come the announcement of the new Phillies manager. With Girardi, he's had a year off. He's done the media thing. He's resigned from USA Baseball. So right there, it tells me that he has something in mind already cooking.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, and that's what I was saying too. Something brewing right there. When I touch base on that article as well.
Yep, exactly, and that's why I feel that there's going to be a announcement probably next week, and I would want Girardi. As I said, I think Girardi would be a good bridge between the analytics and actually, doing some, feeling out things, going with your gut, that type of thing.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know we discussed it off air, too, as well, prior to the broadcast this week, that, and we broke it down more or less between the three. And again, all are experienced. From what I've always, remember from the three, all are very good managers. Not saying that they're not, but at the end of the day here, Girardi out of the three is the really high, solid, candidate for this. So I mean, and I know we touched, on Buck, good very good manager. He seems like he would have, a couple of good years strung up in a row, and then like that, just say that third year or maybe fourth year, it'd be, somewhat of a bust. So, and as far as Baker, three-time National League Manager of the Year. I remember very well, like it was yesterday too, back in '93 when the Giants and the Braves at the time in the NL West, when they battled in game number 163, I believe it was, and the Giants ended up falling short, but but they ended up in the off season with 102 wins, as opposed to where the Braves ended up with 103. That year, if my numbers serve me correctly.
Yep.
So, but like you had mentioned, Jay, Baker is like the Clayton Kershaw of managers. It's like, okay, get to the playoffs. It's like, okay, wash your hands. Okay, we're here.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Absolutely, exactly, and that's where
No disrespect.
No.
To, but that's just that's how it is. That's what it is with Baker.
Yeah, and I also compare him to Andy Reid as well. In that respect too, is like he'll get a team competitive, he'll keep the team competitive all year, but for some reason in the playoffs, he's never won that World Series title. And the team may look good. You may feel good about the team. People may pick them to do something in the playoffs, but Dusty Baker teams just never seem to finish the deal. Same way about Andy Reid teams.
Right.
They look good during the regular season. He gets a lot of praise. You look at Dusty Baker's career record as a manager and how many seasons he's led teams to like 90 wins or whatever, and he keeps his team in playoff contention, and then they get to the playoffs and and then it's it, and then they go belly up and they're not able to seal the deal. And that's what worries me about Dusty Baker. The other thing that worries me about Dusty Baker is where is he at in his life? Like, Dusty Baker is 70-something years old, been out of baseball.
65.
I thought he was a little bit older than that. 65?
65.
Okay.
But still, no. But you touch a a bit of a good point on that though too. It's like, okay, where do you want to, where are you at now, Dusty? And then where do you find yourself, just saying in another 5 years? Yeah.
But now it's like, how many people are bidding for Dusty Baker to manage their ball club? How many other interviews has Dusty Baker gone on? With all these managerial openings, with the Mets, with the Cubs, with Padres, and all these teams having managerial openings, and the hitting instructor even. I mean, how many of these teams have brought in and talked to Dusty Baker? None. Phillies are the only one. And, and you got to ask yourself why. Yes, Dusty Baker's a good manager, but at this point in his life, does he want it? Does he have a passion for it? Or is he going to, just kind of, I don't want to say be Gabe Kapler-ish, but just kind of, this is my last managerial gig, and, be a little more laissez-faire than maybe what he's been in the past, and maybe let things go that now that he wouldn't have let go before. And that's what kind of concerns me about Dusty Baker, is that,
right.
The passion, the drive, because Philly fans know that there is talent on this team, and that possibly Gabe Kapler's laissez-faire attitude towards disciplining the players and having that drive and ambition and not curbing the losing streaks and not knowing how to get the Phillies out of, the caving that they did and the tanking that they were in, and that's what worries me about Dusty Baker, is maybe at this stage in his life, he's perfectly happy being retired and all that. And yeah, I'll try managing again. And, I don't know, his drive, his ambition, that's what kind of concerns me about Dusty Baker, not his ability, because I think he may be able to get a 93 win, may be able to get the Phillies a little bit further than Kapler, but what's his drive like? What's his ambition like?
Right.
Will he have the determination, that thing that boils in its gut, like I know Girardi has after taking a year off, because that's what Girardi has. He has that drive, that ambition, that I want to show New York and I want to show the Yankees that they were wrong in getting rid of me, that I still have that, he has that thing in his gut, and I don't know, and I don't know that, I just don't know that Dusty Baker has that. And for Showalter, a lot of times his teams tend to, he tends to be that shot of adrenaline, or a cup of coffee in the morning. You get it, you have that drive, and then, after lunch, it's like 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're falling asleep at your desk.
Right.
And that's
Exactly. No, that's
You know-
it's the accurate description. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And that's what concerns me about Showalter. Again, not that he can't manage, not that he wouldn't be an injection of life and, probably shoot the Phillies win total up a little bit. But, similar to, and another guy I'll compare him to maybe too is a Mike Keenan type. A guy that comes in, improves your team for like a couple of seasons, and then after that, all of a sudden they go back down again.
Right.
Very intense, very driven, that type of thing. And then, 3 years down the line, you're looking for 3 or 4 years down the line, you're looking for a new manager,
Right.
and that's what kind of,
Gosh, I haven't heard that name in a while, man.
yeah. I mean, you look at Mike Keenan's coaching career, he comes in gangbusters and he would improve a hockey team for like a season or two or maybe 3. But then after that, the team starts breaking down. They can't stand his managerial style and things start going haywire and you end up dismissing him. Another team brings him in.
No, I remember.
Yep.
I
Yep.
remember. Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
And that's what concerns me about Showalter, because I want this guy, whoever they hire, I want this guy to have some staying power. And I think Girardi has that. Has that staying power that he can come in, blend the two, blend the analytics, blend the feel for the game, has that drive in his belly now that he's had some time off, and I think he would be a perfect fit. Now the question is, if the Phillies, what kind of contract would the Phillies offer Girardi, and does Girardi have a preference? Does he want to go to Chicago? Does he want to go to the Mets, and manage another New York team, on the other side, and say the Yankees fire me, I'm going to go to New York. The one thing I will give the Phillies credit for is with the Mets, I think the Phillies can get into a bidding war for Girardi, and the Mets would wind up tapping out.
Exactly, you sort of took the words out of my mouth, because I was just about to say, and I told quite a few Yankee fans this morning, as well as the last couple of days. I'm going to tell you right now, money's not going to be an issue for the Phillies. It's just not.
No.
It's just not. So, and therefore, like you said, Jay, it's going to be a bidding war. It may be a little back and forth, whatever. But in the windup, the Mets are going to eventually, fall out of the bidding for Joe. I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I see it. I see. Look, unless Chicago comes in with, and look, you don't know, but unless Chicago, I think, comes off with some type of a real high bid, that it's, or an extra, it's probably going to. I think money isn't going to be an issue for either the Phillies or the Cubs. I think, in my opinion, what it's going to come down to is, in terms of years, and I don't know how it works with a manager in baseball, but maybe like an option year of something, or vesting. So it's going to come down to something to that effect, I think.
And power too. I think.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Absolutely.
And here's the thing: if you're looking at it from the Phillies' perspective too, this is a huge hire for Matt Klentak and Andy McPhail, because if this manager doesn't come through for these guys, whether it's Baker, Showalter, or Girardi, if this manager doesn't come through for those guys and improve the team significantly and make the fans want to come back out to the ballpark, like, we got a solid manager, we're doing well, we can believe in this guy. If this guy doesn't come through at the end of next season, we could be looking for a new GM and a new president.
No doubt.
So this,
all Hawk eyes and Eagle eyes and whatnot are all going to be, hovering and staring at both Klentak and McPhail. There's no No two ways about it.
And if he goes belly up, or he doesn't, or whoever it is, whether it's Dusty Baker or Showalter, and here's the other thing you got to consider too. If they do go out and they hire Showalter, there could be some backlash because we know that Andy McPhail and Matt Klintek have ties to the Baltimore Orioles organization, and of course, so does Showalter. So if they parade Showalter out there as their choice, not that he's necessarily a bad choice, but the perception among the fan base could be one of, oh, here we go again, another Baltimore Oriole. You're bringing in your buddy, and that could, have a little bit of a, oh, now you're really making us into the Baltimore Orioles organization, and that might be a more tense situation with the fan base.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. Even though, Girardi and McPhail have ties too a little bit. When Girardi was a player out in Chicago there many years back. Absolutely. I mean, the fan base would go. We thought the fan base, you and I included too at one point, Jay, at the end of it too. But, this fan base would go ballistic if that. I can't I can't even think about that.
Yeah, exactly. 3 Baltimore Orioles guys, running in control of the Phillies. You thought the backlash from Kapler was bad. If this team if you hire Showalter, again, not that he's a bad manager, but if they parade Showalter out there and Showalter doesn't get the Phillies above the Mets and have them competing for the division title, at the very least have them in control of the number 1 wild card spot. I mean, the fan base could be irate and even after one season want to get rid of Showalter and just clean house again.
Right.
I could definitely see that. But we had a little bit of news break this week in terms of the managerial thing. Joe Madden went out and signed with the Angels. So now we got 2 local people out there playing for the Angels. We got Mike Trout, and now we got Joe Madden out there.
Yeah, it was a given. I mean, there's no way around it. It was a given. I didn't think. Now, see, unless I'm getting my I's and T's confused, I thought it was where after the World Series. I thought we had touched base on that too, previous to the broadcast too this week. That we didn't think. I thought Madden would have maybe he would have accepted a deal, but wouldn't be introduced, I guess, until after the World Series. I guess that's the way it's rolling now. But yeah, no, it was a given though. I knew. I had a feeling it was a given. Question is, where is Gabe going?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's had a couple of interviews. We'll see, what ends up happening. But Gabe seems to be a little bit in demand with some of these managerial openings, or at least people want to pick his brain a little bit, get some ideas off of Gabe. In terms of, because sometimes that's what you'll do if there's an interesting candidate out there and you have an opening. Sometimes I think teams will bring in guys just to kind of pick their brains a little bit, get some ideas flowing within their organization, like get some feedback from Gabe. Because when you go into an interview, you want to do research about the people that you're interviewing with. And this is something I learned at the Lee Steinberg career conference I went to last Saturday. You want to do research on the organization. You want to do research on the person that's interviewing you so you can have a good conversation with them so that they're impressed with your knowledge of their business and everything. And, and sometimes I think teams will bring in guys to get their feedback, like so that they can pick Gabe's brain a little bit. Gabe walks in there and they chat with him for like a couple hours about what do you see what's wrong with our organization? How do you think we can improve it? And what will you bring, and just get ideas off of Gabe, even if you don't plan to hire him, because I've always felt Gabe was an intelligent guy, and I think he really is, has a great personality, is able to communicate well. But the one thing about Gabe is his, reliance on analytics and his disciplinary procedures for his players. I don't think he was ever hard enough on them.
Right.
And was too laissez-faire and letting things go and that type of thing. And that's where I think, teams will bring in guys and just pick their brains a bit.
Something. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Ken.
No, I was going to say something is telling me, I think, now I know I haven't heard much as of late within the last couple of days, but I know I read that, the Giants, I know, already wanted to speak with Gabe because of that factor where I believe it's don't quote me, the president, I'd like to say, or assistant president or vice president or whatever of operations there, worked with him in Los Angeles years ago. Zahavi, or I don't know, whatever his name is there. Because it's funny you mention it, I think that's what the Cubs did too. I think they called him in because they said, look, you know what? Tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Where do we have to improve upon?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I agree. As to whether he might be, might turn out to be a lead, whatever for the Cubs, lead candidate for the Cubs managerial job. Who knows? But you touch on a good point there too, Jay. And I think that's, I'd like to say that's where the Cubs, I think, did their thing too. But I think right now for Gabe, I could, I could see him more, obviously the West Coast. I could probably see him I can see him most likely with the Giants, maybe the Padres, but we'll see.
Exactly. Turning now to the NFL, Eagles have a big game Sunday night against those Dallas Cowboys, Ken. I say big game because the winner will be in first place in the division. The loser of Sunday night's game will be in second place. They will drop to 3-4 in the division and be battling with those New York Giants, actually. Maybe coming back into the conversation because the Giants right now are 2-4. If the Giants get a win, then they improve to 3-4. So loser of this game gets tied with the New York Giants. So maybe the Giants are back in the conversation for the division. So big game coming up on Sunday night, Eagles Dallas. So how do you see that one going?
Well, here's the thing. We know we have to get off to a really good start, and we have to get off not just to a really good start, but we have to really get off to a quick start. I mean, so far to date this season, 37 to 24, we're outscored in the first quarter of each of these games so far.
Yep.
And it's a must. It's a must. I mean, you're looking at you're going against the Cowboy team, even though they're at home. You're going against the Cowboy team who have lost 3 in a row now.
Yep.
So and the brakes are sort of pumped on the offense a bit. Not much, but it's enough where I see Jim Schwartz really honestly needing to be aggressive with this because too, all right, you're looking at an offense here, even though, yes, they've struggled, okay, they could put together, and I call this the all-or-nothing offense, okay, of the Cowboys, because in one big shot, all right, as far as when they go on a vertical explosion, all right, they could rack up so many big plays in just a short amount of time. So and that's one of the reasons why they're second, as far as third down conversion overall percentage-wise with just over 50%. Second in 20-plus yard touchdowns with 6. Third in yards per pass, okay, overall. So, I mean, that's just, the few stats just to name a few. But, I mean, look, we know where the real game is right now, and that's they do their best and try to do their best to unleash Ezekiel Elliott. So
yes,
and we know what we have to do, both and especially with Jim Schwartz, interior defensive area and exterior. You got to really do what you can to stop them big time, and just to sort of keep a key on it too. All right, they have this pre-snap motion thing too, where and you got Jason Witten, just to name a few, that tries to to interfere in that interior defensive line area too, so that then you get more, so that your wide receivers can get a little more of a play going too. So and for them to be open as well. So I mean, defensively, Jim Schwartz got to really, really pitch a perfect game, if you ask me, or close to a real perfect game. Otherwise, I'm not doubting we could see us coming out with a loss. Not a huge loss, but it would be enough to really ruffle a lot of feathers too. So I do think the keys are, as far as getting off to a quick start, okay, and as far as Jim Schwartz and his defensive calling prowess goes, he's got to be on his game.
Absolutely agree. Got to shut down Big Zeke. Eagles have not won a game against the Dallas Cowboys when Zeke has been in there, so that's something to factor in as well. Also, Cowboys will not have Amari Cooper for Dak to throw to, so that could be a key in the game as well. Maybe give the banged up and much maligned Eagles secondary a chance in this game.
Oh yeah. And at least one good thing. At least we have Jalen Mills coming back and Darby coming back, and I know Coach DP there, he's going to be, from what he mentioned, rotating both of them in and out. Or they're named as starters, but they're good. But otherwise, it's most likely as well he's going to keep rotating between the two of them, and also the other reserves as well, just to see how that pans out as far as corners go too. So, but defensively though, their defense is the name of the game right now.
Absolutely, because the other thing I wanted to get your opinion on too, there was this anonymous source from Josina Anderson from the NFL Network and ESPN reported that there was an anonymous source that kind of took a shot at Carson Wentz. I don't know if you saw that information or not, Ken.
Yeah, I did. I tell you right now, plain and simple, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it.
Well, I know Josina has credible sources, and I know people are trying to figure out who that source is. Alshon Jeffrey says it wasn't him. People are trying to decipher who it was, and maybe that anonymous source will come out, maybe it won't, but I don't know. You don't want any of these little chippy things dividing a locker room, though. I'm hoping that it's, because I don't doubt Josina's sources. So if Josina's reporting it, somebody in the Eagles locker room said it. So,
right.
No,
I agree. No, I agree. It just that, I mean, look, Carson's doing what he can this year to stay healthy, not get hurt, look, he's doing what he can not to get sacked. I mean, I think he's not having a rainbows and unicorn type of season, right now. But I think all considering, he's not having a bad season. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, and I know what you mean with Josina, but I just, I'm just not buying it. I'm just not buying it.
And Jeff has a comment here.
Yeah, so you want to talk about Carson Wentz not trying to get sacked. What about all those sacks he kept getting against the Vikings last week? I mean, do you think his defensive line might wake up and say, oops?
Maybe.
Well, they need to wake up. Again, they need to that defense. Yeah, they need to wake up.
Yeah, I mean their offense and defense did not work really well last week. I mean,
no,
it was
and furthermore too, I believe who is it? Andre Dillard, I believe, is getting the start too. So,
that's right. No Jason Peters.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we're gonna really see what Dillard's all about.
And I think this will be good because I think right now, Jason Peters, being as old as he is, I mean, we saw it last year. He's not able to make it. There's a lot of games that he's just not able to make it through anymore. So let's give actually, I think what the Eagles should do if they're smart, turn the job over to Dillard, make him the starter, make Peters a backup. If something happens to fine, Peters can come in, but I think they should just turn the job over to Dillard at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay,
Ken, so while we have you here, would you like to pick some NFL games this week?
Oh, you kidding? No doubt. Let's go.
Okay, let's start out with where you're going to be on Sunday. Arizona at New York Giants.
Well, I'll tell you, Arizona, what's their record right now?
2-3-1, and the Giants are 2-4.
Yeah. I mean, I could see the Giants really, I could see the Giants making somewhat of a game of it, but, I'd have to go with the Cardinals.
Gotcha. Let's go with Houston, who's 4-2 at Indianapolis. Our old coach, Mr. Right there, who is 3-2.
I see Indianapolis.
Gotcha. How about Oakland at Green Bay? Oakland's 3-2. Green Bay is cruising at 5-1.
Yeah, I think they're going to continue to cruise too. Green Bay.
Gotcha. Minnesota at Detroit. Minnesota's 4-2. Detroit's 2-1.
Yeah, they're going to continue to cruise as well after that unfortunate win against us. So I think the Vikings are going to win that one easily. Easily handed easily to them, actually.
Gotcha. And let us go with Baltimore at Seattle. Baltimore's 4-2. Seattle's 5-1.
I think they'll even their records. I do think Baltimore. I like Lamar. They asked me how or why. I just, cool kid.
Now, here's one I wanted to get your opinion on while we got you. Monday night's game, New England at the Jets. New England is, of course, still undefeated at 6-0. Jets just got their first win. They are 1-4. Do you think the Jets can make this game competitive? Do you think they can pull off the upset?
It's a big question mark. And mind you, that's going to be my office for the night, too, as well. So, look, I've been saying it all morning long and even yesterday, too. I said, look, that's good. At the start of that game, it's going to be the biggest game of the year there at MetLife. Because it's either not going to be one empty seat in the house or close to not one empty seat in the house. However, by the time the second quarter rolls around, and of course, if you see the Brady's bunch there, by the time halftime rolls around, if they're up 33 to whether it's nothing, 3 or 7, that 82.5 is going to drop down to like 20,000. So I don't think it's going to be. I think last week's game, Jets helped the Eagles out.
Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. But I think I just don't see it happening this week.
Gotcha.
I just don't see it happening this week.
Gotcha. Ken, we love having you on the show each and every week. Can't wait to talk to you next week. We may be talking about a new Phillies manager. And finally, can you let everybody know once again how they can find you on your social media?
Absolutely. On Facebook, Ken Moskowitz, in parentheses, crossing guard Ken, and on Twitter and Instagram, Skywarn Spotter Ken.
Awesome. And hopefully we are talking about an Eagles win. Eagles are in first place, and hopefully maybe we're talking about a new Phillies manager when we have you on the live stream next week.
Let's hope. Let's cross our fingers and hope.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ken, and all our best to you and your family, and hopefully you have a great weekend.
All the best to you and your family as well, Jay and Jeff, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds great, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you. And, of course, that was Ken Moskowitz. We always love having him on the show each and every Friday afternoon. And, again, we want to remind you, feel free to go to our website, sportsskillerradio.com, for all the latest show news, sound bites, interviews, all great information there. You can hit us up on our social media, on our Twitter page there. You can download our app so you don't miss our show every Sunday. We broadcast live on Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey. You can also click on the Listen Live tab so you can listen live to our show that airs at 11 a.m. every Sunday morning. Great stuff there. Right now, what I'm going to do, we have a weekly segment that we do. It is called Twish. And it is put together by my brother, Jeff. And what he does is he opens up the history books and takes a look back in time. Could be 10 years, could be at the beginning of the century, who knows. But he comes up with all great news and information about what took place in sports for the week upcoming. It's a great segment. Stay here for that. And after that, we'll be talking with Mike Nebbia, who we're going to flip the script a little bit, and we're going to talk to Mike, and we're going to get the Giants' perspective, talk a little Yankees with him, talk a little Mets, managerial search, and that type of thing. But for right now, we are going to turn it over, and we are going to have Twish.
Welcome to This Week in Sports History, sponsored by Wildflowers Restaurant. I am Jeff Selner. Let's dive right into the history books. On October 20th in 1976, the Philadelphia 76ers acquired Dr. J. Julius Erving from the Nets. Erving and the Nets won the ABA championship in 1976, but the ABA began to falter and the league decided to merge with the NBA. But the Knicks, also in New York, demanded the Nets pay them $4.8 million for invading their territory. Because of costs associated from joining the NBA, the Nets didn't live up to a promise to raise Erving's salary. Erving held out of playing and waited for a new contract. So the Nets tried to offer Erving to the Knicks in exchange for waiving that $4.8 million fee the Knicks wanted. The Knicks declined, and the 76ers then moved in and offered to buy Erving's contract outright for $3 million, and the Nets accepted. Dr. J would lead the Sixers to 4 NBA Finals and 1 championship in 1983. On October 21st in 1975, Red Sox catcher Carlton Fisk hit a 12th inning home run to beat the Cincinnati Reds 7-6 in Game 6 of the 1975 World Series. Although Boston lost Game 7, the home run provided one of the most memorable moments in baseball history and served as one of the defining scenes in the Academy Award-winning movie Good Will Hunting. The image of Fisk waving the baseball fair as he traveled down the first baseline is one of the great moments in World Series history. On October 22nd in 1939, NBC became the first network to televise a pro football game as the Brooklyn Dodgers defeated the Philadelphia Eagles 23-14 at Brooklyn's Ebbets Field. On October 23rd in 1993, Joe Carter, an outfielder for the Toronto Blue Jays, hit a World Series winning home run against the Philadelphia Phillies in Game 6. This would be Toronto's second championship in a row, having won a championship in 1992. Infielder Paul Molitor was named MVP of the World Series. Carter would end his career with a lifetime batting average of .259 with 396 home runs and 1,445 RBIs while playing for 6 different teams. The World Series walk-off home run would be the signature moment of Joe Carter's career. On October 24th in 2004, 10 people, including 4 family members of Rick Hendrick, are killed in a plane crash near Martinsville Speedway. The plane was owned by NASCAR team Hendrick Motorsports. On October 25th in 1986, the New York Mets, trailing 5-3 with 2 out and nobody on base in the bottom of the 10th inning in Game 6 of the World Series against Boston, staged an epic comeback to win the game 6-5. Bill Buckner, first baseman for the Red Sox, had a baseball hit by Mookie Wilson go between his legs for an iconic error, allowing Ray Knight to score the winning run in Game 6. The Red Sox were twice 1 strike away from winning the World Series. After the epic comeback, the Mets would win Game 7 8-5 and the World Series championship. On October 26th in 1951, future World Heavyweight Boxing Championship Rocky Marciano defeated former champion Joe Louis by TKO in the 8th round at Madison Square Garden. The legendary fighter Joe Louis would retire for good after this fight. Thank you for listening to This Week in Sports History, sponsored by Wildflowers Restaurant. I am Jeff Sellner.
And welcome back to the Sports Skillet live stream. We do this every Friday afternoon. Thank you all for joining us. I know we've been experiencing a bunch of technical issues. It caused us to start the live stream a little late this week, but we want to thank you, and we appreciate each and every one of you that are checking us out on our YouTube channel. And make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our awesome live streams each and every Friday. And also like, follow, and share on our social media pages, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well, so that you keep up on our great content and you share it with your friends and family. And feel free to offer us advice and, guests that you want to see on our show on Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey or here on our live stream. We'd be happy to bring on people and talk to them on our live stream. So feel free to do that. But now we are going to bring in Mike Nebbia, who's a contributor to the show. We always love talking to Mike, part of our team here at Sports Skillet. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you, Jay?
I'm hanging in there, watching the World Series, watching the NFL, waiting for some of these teams outside of the Angels to decide on their manager. Your Mets have interviewed a bunch of different guys, apparently, for their managerial opening. Who are you currently looking at? Who would you like to see as the next manager of the New York Mets?
It hasn't changed. It's still Joe Girardi. He's got that New York pedigree. He managed the Yankees for years. He's been a player. He's been a manager. He's a strict disciplinarian. Reminds me a lot of Tom Coughlin meets Bill Parcells. And he knows how to work with young players, knows how to build a championship roster. I think he may be the guy in New York. It would behoove the Mets to make him an offer post-haste.
I can't agree with you more, because it looks like the Phillies have zoned in on him as well. And the Phillies have only interviewed and are only interviewing 3 candidates for their managerial opening, and Girardi is one of them. He's supposed to go back to Philly and interview again for the second time on Monday coming up. So it looks like it could be an interesting race to see who gets Girardi between maybe the Phillies, the Cubs, and the Mets.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I have faith in Brody Van Wagenen. If I were to Wilpons, I would tell Brody, do whatever you can to get Girardi. Keep him away from our league rivals. Keep him away from Philly. Keep him away from Chicago. Force Philly to hire Showalter or Baker.
Yeah, I mean, those are the three guys. And like I said, when I was talking to Ken Moskowitz in the last segment, I was telling Ken, the way I would rank those three candidates, I would want Girardi 1, Showalter 2, and Baker 3 for the Phillies. So it looks like there's going to be a little bit of competition. And you're right. If the Mets are really interested in Girardi and the Mets have zeroed in on...
As they should be.
Yep.
As they should be interested in Girardi.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, good.
Oh, absolutely. And if they have...
And by the way, Dusty Baker is 70 and Showalter 63.
Yeah.
He looks pretty good for 63, by the way.
I would agree with you there. But yeah, I mean, if the Mets have zeroed in on Girardi, they better get the contract to him. And here's the thing, and give Girardi whatever he wants to, because the Phillies probably have him at the top of their list. And who knows if he makes it, out of the building on Monday. They may sign him to a contract Monday and wait to announce it, once there's a break in the World Series next week. They have 2 breaks coming up, 2 travel days. So they may sign him to a contract on Monday, maybe not even let him out of the building. I wouldn't. If I was the Phillies and I had him one-on-one in my building, I would sign him to a contract. I wouldn't let him out of the building if he's the one that I identified as being the next coach. I wouldn't let him talk to the Mets again.
I would, if I were the Mets, I'd bring him in the day before he goes to the Phillies, and I would not let him out of that building.
I agree with you. I definitely do.
Here's what I would think the Wilpons should do. 5 years, give him whatever he wants in terms of money, give him control, and give him an option year as well.
Yeah, that would be fine, absolutely. And I'm sure he's looking for all that too. He's looking for the years. He's looking for, and he's also looking at the organization. How well are they going to be set up for not only this coming year, but in the future years?
But for the next 5-10 years.
Yeah.
I think the Mets are set up better with that young core of Alonso, McNeil, Conforto, and the pitching staff they have with Syndergaard, with DeGrom, Wheeler, Matz.
But
they're set up pretty well for the next few years.
But my question is, some of these guys are going to be coming up for contract renewals. Do you think the Mets will be able to keep them all? Because that's going to be key, is keeping some of these pitchers in-house, keeping some of these players like Cespedes in-house. He's going to be coming back. Will the Mets, and this is the issue I think that Girardi may have, is, okay, I'm set up pretty well for the 2020 season, but when some of these contracts come up with Syndergaard and some of these other guys, will the Mets actually pay out? Because the Mets' history is letting these guys walk out the door, that they're not going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep these guys in-house, that they're not big spenders, and that may lead him towards the Phillies, because the Phillies are big spenders. Look at the contract they just gave to Bryce Harper. Phillies will spend, whereas the Mets won't. So while they are set up well for the 2020 season, as I think they are, and will probably contend for a playoff spot, 2021, 2022, when these contracts start coming up, Wilpons don't spend. They're in a big market, but they just don't spend, Mike. And if I'm Girardi and I'm looking at it, I'm good for the season, but 2, 3, 4 seasons from now, these guys are going to be off my roster. The Mets aren't going to spend for them.
That may be a problem. in 2020, but I think the Wilpons may have learned their lesson. They have an agent for a GM, and Brody is still on a learning curve, but I have to tell you, he's smarter than we are led to believe. He's a businessman, he is an agent, and he's learning the ropes as a GM. He's learning from his mistakes of last year. He added Kalenic into the package for Diaz to keep him away from Philly. He signed Callaway almost immediately to keep him away from Philly. And I think he might do the same with Girardi.
See that? I don't know. Like, the Mets have to show me something. The Mets have to show me that they're willing to spend big bucks, and the Mets haven't done that recently. Under the Wilpons, they've been notoriously middle of the pack to a low spending team. Like, you know, you wouldn't see the Mets spend $330 or whatever million to get a Bryce Harper. And some of these contracts that the Mets have with their pitching and, you know, other guys that they're going to have on their roster, I mean, until the Mets show me, until the Wilpons, I think, show their fan base that they're willing to, like right now, for Girardi, I think the Phillies can go head-to-head with the Mets and offer Girardi more money because the Wilpons will not spend. The Wilpons will go to a certain point with Girardi, with his salary, and then that's going to be it. Like, as good, and I do think Brody Van Wagenen is a pretty good GM, has some good qualities about him, but again, he can only go out and sign guys to a contract based on what the Wilpons are willing to spend. And if the Wilpons get into a bidding war with the Phillies over Girardi, Girardi's going to Philadelphia because the Wilpons will not get into a bidding war. You can't tell me that the Wilpons will outspend the Phillies. You can't tell me that. So when it comes to Girardi, if the Phillies want Girardi, the Phillies are going to get Girardi because they will be able to offer him way more money than the Mets will shell out for him. Unless you can show me where the Mets will outspend the Phillies, you know. So I think, you know, if Girardi thinks the Mets are better positioned to have a better future than the Phillies, I think he may go to the Mets. But if it's about maybe the future, it's about what owner will spend money, what owner will pay me the most, what owner will give me the most power. I think that's Philadelphia and not the Mets.
And I've pinpointed the root of the Wilpons problem, Bernie Madoff.
Yes.
They're almost out of the after effects of the Madoff scheme. It'll take them at least one more year to be completely out of the woods, to quote Taylor Swift. But they're almost out of the woods, so to speak. I think this may be the year we see the Wilpons start to spend. They are in a big market. Time to show it, Wilpons.
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you.
Or as I call them, Wilponsies.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
I crack myself up sometimes.
I know, and I couldn't agree with you more. You know, if you're a Mets fan out there, I mean, you're not going to be able to outbid some of these other teams. The Phillies, you're not going to be able to outbid. Their owner will pay if the Phillies owner John Middleton wants somebody, he's going to get and it's about money. John Middleton will get him. So if it's about money with Girardi, the Mets are going to come in second because the Mets will not spend for X amount. The Mets will not outbid Philadelphia for Girardi if it comes down to money. Phillies will offer Girardi a bigger contract if that's who they've zeroed in on. You know, now who knows which one? You know, maybe the Phillies decide that they like Dusty Baker better or Showalter better or whatever. But if the Phillies want Girardi and it's about money, Mets are going to come in because the Wilpons just won't spend. You know, and that, you know, for Mets fans, it absolutely sucks. I feel for you guys, but that's just the way it is with the Mets. Is that